It wasn't the size of it that haunts me or the claws. It was the way it smiled. It had too many teeth, and it knew my name. Nightbound Bloodline presents 5 true scary cryptid stories. Across the globe, in the deep woods and the lonely places between towns, there are things that walk in the shadows. They are the stuff of campfire tales and forgotten folklore, dismissed by science and rational minds. But sometimes, the shadows stare back. What you are about to hear are the accounts of ordinary people who stepped out of our world and into something else entirely. Their stories, in their own words. Story 1. The Thing in the Mirror Maze. Our first story comes from a woman named Anya. She is a 28-year-old accountant, a person who deals in facts, figures, and hard logic. She sent us this account from a roadside attraction that should have been a place of simple, cheesy fun. It was anything but. My name is Anya. I'm 28. I'm an accountant. I live my life in spreadsheets and tax codes. I don't believe in ghost stories, I don't read my horoscope, and I sure as hell didn't believe in monsters. Not until last October. My friends and I were on a road trip, just a silly, spontaneous weekend to see the fall colors. We saw a sign for Professor Pembroke's World of Wonders, one of those old-timey roadside stops with a giant fiberglass dinosaur out front. We decided to stop for a laugh. The main attraction was a mirror maze. I went in alone. My friends were getting snacks. The inside was disorienting. A cold, clinical white light reflected off 1,000 surfaces. My own face stared back at me from a dozen different angles, my expression warping from serious to confused to slightly amused. The air was stale and smelled like old popcorn and lemon-scented disinfectant. I remember thinking it was colder than it should have been, a deep chill that seeped right through my jacket. I turned a corner, then another, my reflection mimicking my every move. And then, I saw it. In one of the mirrors, about 20 feet down the corridor, there was a reflection that wasn't mine. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, and impossibly thin. Its limbs were like knotted ropes, its skin a pale, waxy gray. It was just standing there, facing the mirror. But its head was tilted at an angle that looked broken, and it was smiling. A wide, stretched smile that showed far too many needle-like teeth. It wasn't looking at its own reflection. It was looking at my reflection. At me. My blood went cold. I mean literally ice cold. I froze, staring at this thing in the mirror. I told myself it was a mannequin, a stupid prop. But then its head tilted the other way, with a series of tiny, wet cracking sounds. Its smile widened, and it lifted one of its long, spidery fingers and pointed. Not at my reflection, through the glass, directly at me. I stumbled back, my shoulder hitting a hard surface. I didn't know if it was a mirror or a wall. I just started running. My own terrified faces flew past me in a blur. I could hear it, though. Not footsteps. A sound like dry leaves skittering across pavement. A rapid, clicking rustle that was right behind me, no matter which way I turned. I saw the exit curtain, a sliver of daylight, and I burst through it, falling onto the gravel outside. I was gasping, shaking so hard I couldn't stand. My friends asked what was wrong. I just pointed back at the maze. The attendant, a bored-looking teenager, came over. I asked him, What is that thing in there? He just frowned and said, "Lady, the only thing in there is you." I never went back. I can't look in a mirror for too long now. I'm always afraid I'll see it standing behind me, still smiling. A prop, a trick of the light, a waking nightmare? Anya doesn't think so. She deals in what is real and quantifiable, and she insists, with every fiber of her being, that the thing in the mirror was as real as the fear that now lives in her heart. Story 2. The Crawler on the Cliffside. Our next account takes us to the rugged, windswept coast of Maine. The witness is Leo, a 45-year-old long-haul trucker, a man who has spent decades driving through the night, seeing the strange and the solitary. He thought he was unshakable. What he saw on a desolate coastal road proved him wrong. Name's Leo. I've been driving a rig for 22 years. You see a lot of weird things on the road at 3 a.m. Deer in the headlights, fog that looks like people, all that. You learn to shrug it off. I'm a practical man. If I can't haul it, load it, or log it, I don't much bother with it. This was last February, on Route 1, up near Acadia. ID pulled over at a scenic overlook to grab a few hours of shut-eye before my final delivery. The place was empty, just me, my rig, and the Atlantic Ocean pounding the cliffs 100 feet below. It was a clear night, cold as hell. The moon was so bright it cast sharp shadows. I was just about to drift off when I heard it. A scraping sound, like something heavy being dragged over rock. I sat up, peered out the passenger window towards the cliff edge. Nothing. I wrote it off as the wind moving a branch. Then I saw a shape. It was down on all fours, maybe 50 yards away, just beyond the safety fence. At first, I thought it was a big dog, a stray. But the proportions, they were all wrong. Its limbs were too long, too thin, like a starved person. And it was pale, not white, but a sickly, grayish color, like a fish belly. It was crawling along the cliff edge, its movements jerky, unnatural, like it didn't have any bones, or had too many. It stopped, and its head swiveled towards my truck. It didn't have eyes, just dark, deep sockets. But I knew it was looking right at me. I felt it. This wave of pure wrongness. This thing wasn't an animal. It wasn't a person. It was something that shouldn't be. I fumbled for the keys, my hands shaking. I got the engine started, flipped on my high beams. The light hit it full on. It recoiled, not like it was scared, but annoyed. It let out this sound. Not a growl, not a hiss. It was a wet, gurgling click, like stones being shaken in a bucket of phlegm. Then it moved. It didn't run. It scrambled backwards over the cliff edge, down the sheer rock face, faster than anything I've ever seen. It moved like a spider. I slammed the truck into gear and peeled out of there. I didn't look back. I drove straight through to my delivery, didn't stop shaking for hours. I've driven that route 100 times since. I never stop there anymore. I don't even slow down. A trick of the moonlight? A sleep-deprived hallucination? Leo has considered all of it. But he has navigated by logic and a road atlas his entire adult life. He states, unequivocally, that the crawler on the cliffside was a tangible, living violation of the world he knows. Story 3. The Dogman of Pine Barrens. Our third story emerges from the deep, sandy soil of the New Jersey Pine Barrens, a place already steeped in its own legends. The witness is Mark, a 34-year-old surveyor, a man whose entire profession is built on knowing the land, measuring it, and defining its boundaries. He learned that some things refuse to be mapped. My name is Mark. I'm a land surveyor. My job is about precision. I deal in inches and degrees, not fairy tales. I've been skeptical of the Jersey Devil stories my whole life. Just a local spook to scare tourists. This was last spring. I was on a week-long job, surveying a large, privately owned tract deep in the Barrens. I was camping on-site to get an early start each day. I loved the solitude, the quiet. Until the third night. It was around 2 a.m. I was woken up by the sound of something big moving through the brush just beyond the ring of light from my fire. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I sat up in my tent, heart hammering. I called out, "Hello?" The footsteps stopped. The silence was heavier than the noise. Then I heard this low, rumbling growl. It wasn't a bear. I've heard bears. This was deeper, with a resonance to it that I felt in my chest. It was intelligent. It was a warning. I fumbled for my high-powered flashlight, my hands slick with sweat. I unzipped the tent flap just a crack and shone the beam out into the darkness. And I saw it, standing at the tree line, maybe 30 feet away. It was on two legs, easily 7 feet tall. It was built like a nightmare of a wolf and a man. Thick, dark, shaggy fur covered its body. Its legs were reverse-jointed, like a dog's hind legs, but it stood upright. And its head, God, Its head was canine, but the snout was shorter, blunter, and the eyes, they were a bright, almost amber yellow, and they held a chilling awareness. This was no animal. It was looking right at me, and it knew exactly what I was. It took a step forward into the edge of my firelight. I saw its claws, long and black, curling from its fingers. It didn't charge. It just stared, and then it let out a sound I will never forget. It wasn't a howl. It was a roar, mixed with a bark, a sound that shattered the night and echoed through the pines. It was a sound of pure, territorial dominance. I did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed my air horn. We carry them for bears, and I blasted it. The creature flinched, its ears flattening against its skull. It let out another of those horrific roars, then turned and melted back into the trees. I didn't sleep. I sat there with a hatchet in one hand and the air horn in the other until the sun came up. I packed my gear and left. I told my boss the site was too active with wildlife. I never went back to finish the survey. Some lines, I've decided, don't need to be drawn. A bear with mange? A trick of the firelight? Mark is a man of measurements and facts. He states that the creature he saw defied every known classification. It was a living fossil from a darker time, a guardian of a wilderness that does not want to be known. Story 4. The Deep Ones of Lake Superior. Our journey into the unknown now takes us to the vast, cold, and ancient waters of Lake Superior. The witness is Elias, a 52-year-old commercial fisherman, a third-generation man of the water. He knows its moods, its secrets, and its dangers. But one night, the lake revealed a secret he wishes had stayed buried in the deep. Name's Elias. I've been fishing Superior since I was a boy. My father, and his father before him. We respect the lake. She gives, and she takes. You learn to read her. Last July, we were on an overnight trawl, about 10 miles out from the Keweenaw Peninsula. The water was like glass, the air still and unusually warm. Too still. It felt, waiting. Around midnight, I was on deck alone, checking the lines. That's when I saw the lights. Below the surface, maybe 30, 40 feet down, there were these patches of greenish-blue light. They pulsed, slow and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. I'd seen bioluminescence before, algae blooms, but this was different. This was organized. It was moving with purpose. I leaned over the gunwale, staring, and that's when I saw the shapes inside the light. They were humanoid, but stretched and thin. Their skin was pale and seemed to glow with that same sickly light. They had wide, unblinking black eyes that reflected no moonlight, and their mouths, just dark, open slits. There were 3, maybe 4 of them, swimming in a slow circle just below my boat. They stopped their circling, and they all turned those black, depthless eyes up towards me. I felt a pressure in my head, a buzzing, like a swarm of bees was inside my skull. It wasn't a sound, it was a feeling of being examined, studied, like I was a strange insect they'd found floating on their world. I was frozen, couldn't move, couldn't even scream. The one directly below me raised a long, webbed hand. It didn't point. It just gestured, a slow, curling motion, like it was beckoning the water itself. And the lake around my boat began to churn, not from wind, but from something rising up from below. The whole boat started to tilt. I was going to be pulled under. I don't know how I did it, but I broke whatever hold they had on me. I stumbled back, fell against the winch, and the sharp pain in my side. It cleared my head. I scrambled to the wheelhouse, slammed my hand on the air horn, and held it down. The blare was deafening. I looked back over the side. The lights were gone. The water was flat again. Just gone. I turned the boat and ran for shore at full throttle. I didn't stop until I was in the harbor. I told the other fishermen I had engine trouble. They saw the look in my eyes and didn't ask more. I still fish, but I never go out alone at night anymore. And I never, ever look too long into the water. A school of fish? A hallucination brought on by fatigue? Elias has spent more of his life on that lake than on solid ground. He swears that the things he saw were intelligent, ancient, and that they regarded him not as a predator, but as an intruder in their domain. Story 5. The Whisperers in the Corn. Our final story does not come from a distant wilderness or a deep lake, but from the very heartland of America, a place of rolling fields and tight-knit communities. The witness is Sarah, a 41-year-old high school teacher and mother of 2. Her account is a chilling reminder that the unknown does not always dwell in the wilds. Sometimes, it grows in our own backyards. My name is Sarah. I teach biology. I believe in the scientific method, in observable, repeatable phenomena. My husband and I bought an old farmhouse on the edge of town, surrounded by 10 acres of our own land, most of it rented out to a local farmer for corn. It was idyllic, until the harvest season. The combines had come through, leaving the fields stripped, just these vast, barren plains of stubble. That's when the sound started. At first, we thought it was the wind playing tricks, but it was too articulate. It wasn't a howl or a moan. It was a whisper, dozens of them, layered over one another, coming from the field after dark. You could never make out words, but you could hear the cadence of speech, the rise and fall of sentences. My kids were terrified. My husband, the pragmatic engineer, said it was just critters, mice, raccoons. But I knew. This was different. One night, I looked out our bedroom window, which faces the field. I saw them. Shapes. Tall, thin, gray shapes moving between the corn stubble. They were impossibly slender, blending with the shadows, their movements a series of jerky, unnatural glides. They had no discernible features, just elongated limbs and heads that seemed too small for their bodies. And they were whispering to each other. This low, constant, chittering murmur that seemed to crawl inside my ears. I woke my husband. By the time he got to the window, they were gone. He didn't see anything. He told me I was stressed, that it was sleep paralysis. The next night, I was alone. My husband was away on business. The whispering started again, closer this time, right at the edge of the lawn where the field begins. I felt a primal fear, a deep, gut-level revulsion. I locked all the doors, closed all the blinds. But I could still hear them. And then, the whispering stopped. A single, clear voice, right outside my kitchen window, spoke. It was a dry, rasping sound, like stones grinding together. It said my name, Saraya. It knew my name. I didn't sleep. I sat in the center of my living room with all the lights on until the sun rose. We put the house on the market a month later. We moved into an apartment in the city center. I still can't stand the sound of rustling paper or the wind through dry leaves. Because sometimes, if you listen too closely, you can almost hear the words. An overactive imagination? The stress of rural life? Sarah is a woman of science and reason, a pillar of her community. She asserts that the whisperers were not a figment of her mind, but an intelligence that had been living on that land long before her house was built, and that they did not appreciate the intrusion. 5 accounts. 5 ordinary lives, irrevocably touched by the extraordinary. A maze that reflects more than just light, a cliffside that crawls with ancient life, a forest that holds its own apex predator, waters that guard their secrets jealously, and a field that whispers with a voice not of this world. These stories, sent to us from across the country, from people just like you, form a chilling tapestry. They suggest that the world is not as mapped, not as tamed, as we would like to believe. In the forgotten corners and the lonely hours, the old things still walk. The myths breathe, and the line between what we know and what we fear is terrifyingly thin. Now, we turn to you, the listeners of Nightbound Bloodline. Have you ever felt the prickle of unseen eyes on your neck in the deep woods? Have you heard a sound in the night that had no rational explanation? Your story could be the one that keeps another viewer awake, staring into the darkness. Share your encounters in the comments below. Let us know which of these accounts chilled you to the bone. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell. The shadows are gathering, and we have many more stories to tell. This has been Nightbound Bloodline. Thank you for listening. Until next time, sleep with one eye open.